You did not lose your ability to focus. It was taken from you. Not in one dramatic moment. Not because you made one bad decision. But through thousands of tiny interruptions, happening so quickly that you barely notice them. You sit down to work. You open a document. You read the first sentence. Then you remember that you should reply to someone. You check your phone. You see a headline. You open a comment section. And 20 minutes later, you return to your work. Then you tell yourself the same thing. I have no discipline. But that is not the full story. Your brain is not getting distracted randomly. At every moment, it is choosing what it considers more important than the task in front of you. Sometimes it is a notification. Sometimes it is an unfinished conversation. Sometimes it is the fear of failing. Sometimes it is exhaustion disguised as laziness. And the more you try to force yourself to focus without understanding why your attention keeps leaving, the more likely you are to start hating both the work and yourself. In this video, we will break down why attention does not fully obey you. Why your phone defeats your biggest goals. Why unfinished tasks follow you even in silence. Why multitasking makes you slower. And how to get your focus back without the useless advice. Just concentrate. Because focus is not about chaining yourself to a task. Focus is the state where your brain no longer needs to search for something more urgent. Part 1. Your attention was never fully yours. Let's start with a fact that explains almost everything. Your attention was not designed for studying, writing reports, reading books, or doing deep work. It was designed for survival. For thousands of years, it was dangerous to focus on one thing for too long. While you were gathering food, a predator could be nearby. While you were building shelter, another group could appear. While you were doing something calm, the world around you could suddenly change. So the brain learned to interrupt attention automatically when it detects three things: novelty, possible danger, and uncertainty. Today, predators rarely hide in the bushes. But that ancient system never disappeared. It simply found new objects. A notification. A new email. An unanswered message. A frightening news headline. A vague message from someone you love. A red number next to an app icon. Rationally, you know that almost none of these things need your response this second. But the older part of your brain does not think in words like rational or later. It asks one simple question. Could this matter right now? That is why a tiny notification can defeat a major goal. Your task matters for your future. But the notification promises something now. Information, contact, danger, approval, or reward. And the brain is often more sensitive to what feels urgent than to what is genuinely important. That is not a character flaw. It is an ancient priority system living in a world that has learned how to manufacture urgency without end. Part 2. Why unfinished tasks hijack your mind, but your phone is not the only thief of attention. Sometimes you put your phone in another room. You close every tab. You sit in silence. And you still cannot begin. Why? Because part of your attention is already occupied by unfinished tasks. In the 1920s, psychologist Bluma Zeigarnik noticed something strange. Waiters in a cafe seemed to remember unpaid orders better than orders that had already been completed. She later explored this idea in experiments. People were given a series of simple tasks. Some were allowed to finish. Others were interrupted halfway through. Then participants were asked which tasks they remembered most clearly. The unfinished tasks were remembered more often. The brain acts as if an unfinished task is an open process. Like a browser tab that never closes and keeps using memory in the background. I need to reply to my mother. I need to pay that bill. I promised I would send that email. I need to book a doctor's appointment. I don't know what will happen with my job. Each thought may seem small on its own. But together, they create internal noise. And while you are trying to read, study, or work, your brain keeps bringing those signals back to the screen. Not because it wants to sabotage you. But because it is afraid that if it stops reminding you, you will forget. Here is the most useful idea from this section. You do not need to solve every problem before you can focus. Sometimes you only need to show your brain that the problem will not disappear from memory. Do not hold it in your head. Write it down. Schedule it. Define the next step. Then the brain begins to understand. I do not need to remind them every minute. This is already being handled. Part 3. Why your phone is so hard to ignore. Now let's return to the phone. People often say that apps create a dopamine addiction. It sounds scientific, but it usually misses the most important point. Dopamine is not simply pleasure. It is closely tied to anticipation. Maybe something important is about to appear. And uncertainty is especially powerful at capturing attention. If you knew that your feed contained only one boring photo, you would not feel much need to check it. But you do not know. There might be a message from an important person. A new opportunity. A funny video. Bad news. Someone's reaction to you. Something that changes your mood. That unpredictability is what makes checking feel so sticky. Imagine a slot machine. If it never gives you a reward, you leave quickly. If it gives you a reward every time, it becomes predictable and less interesting. But if it sometimes gives you something good and sometimes gives you nothing, you keep pulling the lever. Feeds, email, messaging apps, and notifications can use a similar pattern. Not necessarily because one person is personally trying to hurt you, but because their business model rewards one thing: keeping your attention for as long as possible. But the biggest cost of your phone is not the 30 seconds you spend inside an app. The biggest cost is returning. After you switch away, the brain has to rebuild the context. What was I thinking about? Where did I stop? What was I about to write? Why was this important? Every interruption breaks the thread of thought. And if the task is difficult, you have to rebuild the mental model of your work almost from the beginning. That is why you can sit at a laptop for 4 hours, stay busy the entire time, and accomplish less than you would in one calm hour without interruptions. Part 4. Even seeing your phone can reduce focus. There is one detail most people underestimate. Even when you do not touch your phone, it can still take part of your attention. In a widely discussed 2017 study, researchers tested people's concentration and memory under different conditions. For some people, the phone was on the desk. For others, it was in a pocket or bag. For others, it was in another room. The general pattern was simple. The more distant and less accessible the phone was, the better people tended to perform on measures of available cognitive capacity. Many participants did not even use the phone. Its presence alone could still occupy mental resources. Imagine trying not to look at a door behind which an important call could arrive at any moment. You can keep reading a book, but a small part of your mind is still guarding that door. Your phone works the same way. It promises a possible update, a possible threat, a possible reward, a possible message from someone whose opinion matters to you. And your brain keeps it active in the background. That is not weakness. It is limited attention. You do not have an infinite supply of concentration. If part of your system is standing guard over the phone, less remains for difficult work. That is why placing your phone face down beside your laptop often does not work. If you want deep focus, the device does not only need to become invisible. It needs to become unavailable. Not forever. Not dramatically. Just for one block of work. Your brain should not have to make the decision: check it or do not check it every 2 minutes. The best solution is to remove the need for that internal argument. Part 5. Multitasking is a convincing illusion. This brings us to another trap. Multitasking. We like to believe we can do several things at once, especially when it makes us feel busy. You reply to messages while working. You listen to a video while reading. You switch between emails, spreadsheets, chats, and calls. It feels like speed. But most of the time, you are not doing several complex tasks at once. You are switching rapidly between them. And every switch has a cost. Part of the previous task remains in your mind. Part of the new task has not fully loaded yet. Your brain starts acting like a computer with too many heavy programs open. It may not crash, but it becomes slower, noisier, and more exhausted. That is why you may reach the end of a day feeling drained, not because you did something extraordinary, but because you forced your brain to change context hundreds of times. The most dangerous part is that constant switching feels like control. You reply to everyone. You check everything. You miss nothing. But in exchange, you lose the ability to go deep enough to create something difficult, meaningful, or original. And depth is usually what separates I was busy from I did something that mattered. Part 6. Why you avoid the task that matters most. But what if your phone is far away, your task list is written down, the room is quiet, and you still cannot start? Then the reason may be deeper. Sometimes distraction is not a search for reward. It is avoidance of emotion. An important task can contain risk. If I start writing, I may discover that I am not good enough. If I start studying, I may realize how much I do not know. If I submit the work, someone may judge it. If I look at my finances, I may see a number that scares me. So the brain offers a comfortable escape. Do not do the difficult thing. Do something small, clear, and safe. Check email. Wash a cup. Open the feed. Read one more article to prepare. The problem is not always that the task is hard. Sometimes it is too vague. Work on the project. Prepare for the exam. Start a business. Fix my life. For the brain, these are not actions. They are fog. And fog is difficult to begin, difficult to measure, and easy to fear. That is why one of the strongest ways to restore focus is not to promise yourself that you will finish everything. Find the next physical action. Not write a script. Open the document and write the first sentence. Not study for the exam. Read 2 pages and write down 3 terms. Not fix my finances. Spend 10 minutes reviewing recent expenses. Focus often does not arrive before you begin. It arrives after you begin. You do not wait for motivation to move. You move in a way so small that your brain stops seeing movement as a threat. Part 7. Anxiety, the hidden thief of focus. There is another reason people rarely mention in productivity videos. Sometimes you cannot focus not because you are bored, but because you are anxious. Anxiety is very good at one thing: making the brain constantly scan for what could go wrong. Focus requires almost the opposite state. It requires you to stop checking the entire world for danger, at least temporarily, and stay with one task. That is why, during a difficult period in life, even familiar work can feel almost impossible. You open a file. You read 1 sentence. And suddenly you realize that you have spent 5 minutes thinking about money, health, relationships, the future, or something that has not even happened yet. In that moment, telling yourself to get it together is useless. It is like demanding that a fire alarm stay quiet while the room smells like smoke. First, ask: what is my brain treating as an alarm right now? Sometimes the answer is practical. You need to pay a bill. You need to send an email. You need to make a decision that you have delayed for too long. Sometimes the answer is emotional. You are afraid to start because the result will be judged, or because the task reminds you that you are not yet where you hope to be. In both cases, distraction stops being a mystery. It becomes a message. Try this before difficult work. Write down 2 questions. First, what is trying to take my attention right now? Second, is there one concrete next step I can take? If there is, write it down and assign it a time. If there is not, name the truth. I am not solving this problem right now. I am worrying about it. That will not erase anxiety instantly, but it stops you from disguising it as laziness or weak character. And when you stop fighting the wrong enemy, your energy can finally go where it is actually needed. Part 8. A 5-step system to rebuild focus. Now let's put everything into one system. Not a perfect morning routine. Not a list of beautiful habits that only work for people with no stress, no job, and no notifications. 5 steps that reduce the reasons your brain keeps pulling you away. Step 1. Unload the open tabs from your mind. Before you begin, set a timer for 2 minutes. Write down everything circling in your head. Tasks, fears, messages, purchases, conversations, questions. Then choose one of 3 options for each item. Do it now. Schedule it for a specific time. Or consciously postpone it. Your goal is not to solve your whole life in 2 minutes. Your goal is to stop keeping it all in working memory. Step 2. Create distance from the trigger. Do not leave your phone face down beside your laptop. Put it physically far away. Another room. A bag. A drawer. Because the closer the trigger is, the more often you have to make the decision not to check it. Do not turn one work session into 100 tiny battles with yourself. Step 3. Define the entrance to the task. Before work begins, write not the goal, but the first action. Not work on the presentation. Open the slides and write the titles of 3 pages. Not read the book. Read 4 pages and underline one idea. The less fog there is at the beginning, the less your brain looks for an exit. Step 4. Limit the promise. Do not tell yourself, I have to be productive all evening. That sounds like punishment. Tell yourself, for the next 25 minutes, I will return to this one task. Do not demand perfect concentration. Your attention will drift. That is normal. The skill is not never getting distracted. The skill is noticing that you left and calmly returning. Step 5. Do not try to solve focus only with your mind. Sleep, hunger, movement, constant stress, and lack of rest directly affect how easily the brain can hold attention. If you barely slept, did not eat, sat still all day, and are worried about 5 things at once, focus does not have to appear just because you demand it. Sometimes the most productive step is not another hour at the desk. It is sleep. Food. A walk. Silence. A conversation. A pause. Final question. We are often told that concentration is a question of character. That successful people simply know how to pull themselves together. But that is too simple. Attention does not disappear for one reason. It can be stolen by apps. Unfinished tasks. Constant switching. Anxiety. Fatigue. Fear of doing something badly. And goals so large and vague that the brain does not know where to begin. So stop asking only one question. Why am I so undisciplined? Try a different one. What exactly is my brain trying to notice instead of this task? But what does my brain think matters more? Focus does not appear when you hate yourself hard enough. It appears when you understand the mechanism of distraction and stop building an environment where your attention has no chance of surviving. So here is the question I want you to answer in the comments. What steals your focus most often? Your phone. Anxiety. Unfinished tasks. Fatigue. Or one important task that you are afraid to begin. Write just one thing. The most honest answer. Because sometimes the moment you name the thief of your attention is the first moment it stops being invisible.